anything worthwhile is difficult. And I have a joke. I mean, running a company is the hardest thing I've ever done. And I'm a brain surgeon.
Hello, and welcome to Season 3 of The Founder Mindset, brought to you by ATB. I'm your host, Leah Sarich, and I'm delighted to be back for another season of talking to founders about what it's really like to build a company from that first big idea. If you've listened to previous episodes, you know I was a journalist for over 20 years. So I'm more curious about why anyone would ever want to become an entrepreneur. Not so much about the business model, product market fit, and so on. I want to understand why entrepreneurs keep going, why they think they're the ones to solve a massive problem, why they want to make a real impact in the world. And if you're here, I bet you want to know why too. Let's find out. Joining me today in studio is Dr. John Wong, neurosurgeon and co-founder and CEO of Fluid Biomed, a medical device company developing the next generation of stents to cure brain aneurysms without invasive surgery. John, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
I love talking to you about this because, you're a neurosurgeon. So let's start there. How do you go from being neurosurgeon to founding a company?
It's been a very interesting journey, I would say. I graduated from Edmonton at the University of Alberta from medical school and did my neurosurgery residency there. Mm-hmm. That was many, many moons ago. And along the way, did the usual things that doctors do, develop a clinic, develop a patient practice. I became very subspecialized in patients with brain aneurysms. And, a brain aneurysm, for those who are unaware, it can be described as a bubble on a blood vessel.
Okay.
That's weak. It's typically silent. You wouldn't know you had a brain aneurysm unless it bursts. And if it bursts, then the horse is out of the barn. Unfortunately, people will then develop severe symptoms, headache, terrible problems such as even paralysis. And for a good proportion of people, they don't survive.
Wow.
The people who make it into hospital are then treated. And we can get a little bit into the product and technology, but essentially along the way, I did learned neurosurgery, but I also learned this new technique I learned from one of the pioneers in New York City, where we can treat conditions of the brain without opening up the skull by going through the blood vessels of the body using tiny wires and catheters. In this manner, you can seal off an aneurysm, again, without opening up the skull. So doctors have been using these different technologies. One of them is called a stent, a mesh tube. I don't want to give away the ending here, but we developed a new kind of stent, a very special kind of stent that became sort of the genesis of the company. But backtracking a bit, so that was my career as a neurosurgeon. And along the way, I met many interesting people, including my co-founder, Dr. Alim Mitha, incredibly talented and special human being.
Wow. And so the two of you are hanging out, you're talking, and you come up with this stent. Is that right? And then you realized, hey, this is something that we could commercialize. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I first met Alim when I started here in Calgary. And Alim at that point was a trainee. He was a resident. He was in the process of becoming a neurosurgeon. And even then, anyone who's met Alim knows that he's an incredibly talented and special person. And along the way, when we were in the fortunate position of recruiting him back to Calgary, I knew that Alim had this special talent. Not only did Alim complete neurosurgery, but in the middle of his neurosurgical training, when he asked me what I would do for my research stint, I said, well, back then, I had always had a profound respect for people who could develop new ideas or take them to reality. And so Alim then pauses neurosurgery, goes to Harvard, learns the fundamentals of engineering, and becomes a biomedical engineer.
Wow.
Yes, exactly. and then comes back to finish neurosurgery. So you can tell the tenacity, the perseverance, the intelligence behind him. So eventually, when he had his credentials, again, we were fortunate enough to recruit him back to Calgary. I knew that to make the most of his abilities, we need to set him up in a laboratory. So Alim then started a biomedical engineering laboratory at the University of Calgary, where we're based, Hotchkiss Brain Institute and the Libin Cardiovascular Institute. And that's where things got started for his scientific career.
Right.
But again, very early on, we knew that we wanted to work on something. We wanted to work on something together.
Okay.
And that was the genesis of Fluid at that point.
Okay.
Sort of the vehicle for us to work together towards something that we were going to make a reality. So it did not just exist in medical journals, but could actually go and become something tangible to help heal patients.
Wow. Okay, so you knew you wanted to have that impact on a patient for sure. But I'm really curious about this idea of going, okay, we're neurosurgeons, we're still practicing, you're still practicing as a neurosurgeon. How did you decide then to go, okay, well, let's actually make this a company? Like, let's actually build a company around this scientific idea that we have, that we're working on. And I'm going to be the CEO. Like, how did that even happen? You're laughing.
Yes, yeah. Well, I guess if we would have sought advice very early on, we probably wouldn't have embarked on this.
And why is that?
The journey is so uncertain, to be honest. It's incredibly difficult. I was at a conference and a young trainee from ophthalmology at Stanford approached me. And this was a couple of years ago. Hey, Dr. Wong, I just want to chat with you a little bit. I'm in the middle of this design course at Stanford. Got some great ideas, about doing a startup with technologies for ophthalmology. What's your recommendation to me? Well, what would you say? I said, go back to medicine. go.
Like, don't even do this?
It is so difficult. But, that's the highs and lows. Maybe he caught me at a low at that point because, the journey is incredibly rewarding. But again, anything worthwhile is difficult. And I would say that I have a joke. I mean, running a company is the hardest thing I've ever done. And I'm a brain surgeon.
Okay, that's a great joke.
Yeah.
And I'm a brain surgeon. Oh my goodness, that is so good. That actually cracks me up. And you are grinning ear to ear. But I would love to know how you think about being an entrepreneur. Like, do you think entrepreneur first, or do you think neurosurgeon first with a product that we need to get into patients? Like, how does your mind work around that?
Yeah. So I alluded to this. My history with entrepreneurship, or what I've seen, is probably reflected in my own childhood. My father's a small to medium-sized business person that immigrated to Canada, sort of like a rags to semi-riches story or a semi-success story in that regard. But he has a factory that started from very humble beginnings, based in Edmonton, and he's still working. He's in his mid-80s now.
Wow.
So really has dedicated himself towards that career. And so I always had this fundamental respect for entrepreneurs and for business. And then with Alim then joining us at the university and his skill set, I did think that at some point we would be doing something. And I think that's what's also a key point here. It's a tough journey, and it can be lonely if you're doing it by yourself, or maybe even impossible. Sole founders that take things to, a critical point in evolution are few and far between, or perhaps they don't recognize the people that actually help lift them up to that point. So, right. Again, with myself and Alan, we started the project together that evolved from a scientific standpoint towards a real product. But again, the funny thing is that we started the company, I think, within the first month of him stepping foot into Calgary. So we knew we had that idea.
Wow.
That we wanted to develop something.
Yeah.
And develop something together. What it was took actually a couple of years to figure out.
Amazing. Okay, well, that leads us nicely to Fluid Biomed specifically. So we'll do a little one-on-one on the company. So when did you actually form the company?
Yeah, the company was formed in actually 2012 when he joined. It literally was when he joined us in Calgary. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so where are you at now? How many employees do you have these days, roughly, give or take?
Just in terms of that evolution of the company. So 2012, the company started on paper. And then the technology, which we were developing as a research project, started to come along over the next, say, 3 or 4 years. It was probably not until 2018, 17, 18, that we felt that based on all the progress he was making in the lab with some phenomenal people he had under his supervision, the vision was coming together. The product was coming together. It was, the stent, which is, of course, our flagship product. But this is, again, a stent is a mesh tube that you implant into a blood vessel. And these stents typically will divert blood flow away from a weakness. So it's a very flexible mesh tube. And as opposed to the current stents out in the marketplace, which are made out of tiny wires and metal that are permanent,
Oh, wow.
ours are mostly made out of polymer. So essentially a plastic that's bioabsorbable. So after you implant this stent, it will then divert blood flow away from the bubble, away from the weakness, heal the aneurysm, and then gradually dissolve over time. So that was the project that was developing. And then when we thought it had legs, we thought, hey, this company, which we already had in place, all of the basics of corporate hygiene were looked after, then we could really then sort of accelerate. And there's been some fantastic people in our sphere here in Calgary that really helped us further launch, based out of Creative Destruction Lab.
Sure.
Yeah, other entrepreneurs, other business people who really provided us very sound advice. And then, of course, supporters like Thin Air Labs here in Calgary that have been instrumental in sort of either propping us up or helping uplift us along the way.
That's amazing. And so you have still relatively a small team, though, yeah?
Yeah, I would say that it's grown quite a bit over time. So it's funny, like as a CEO, when before, we would obviously know everyone in the company extremely well because you were all together. But yeah, we've grown substantially. We have now 25 full-time employees.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, that's amazing. Of course, recently you've been very successful raising money. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can talk about money now that I'm on the other side. But
We should. Okay, yeah, let's get the number and then we'll talk about how you got there because I know it was a journey.
yes, it was a journey. So this is something they didn't teach you in medical school, maybe in business school, but the process of developing a product, at least for people with an academic background, isn't just science and it's not grant writing. It really means raising capital, and that's part of the burden that founders will share. And it's difficult, I would say. It's a process where you have to approach people you know, people you may not know, tell them the story in a very succinct manner, hopefully get another conversation going, and eventually it leads to ideally investment. But getting back to your to the history here, so as a young company, we were making do with grants and such, but to really accelerate, we needed to raise capital. So we were fortunate enough to do a pre-seed or friends and family round. Part of the benefit, I guess, of being embedded in the community now as a physician, surgeon, we have great colleagues. We have great people in our network who I think, to be honest, didn't necessarily invest in a stent. They invested in Alim and John, and really trusted us with their funds, which we were and remain very, very grateful for. Even the earliest investors, right?
Sure.
We think about them. And so we were fortunate to raise about $1 million when we were finishing the Creative Destruction Lab sessions. And then we fast forward to, that was 2019, 2021. I received some advice from a very, very seasoned physician entrepreneur that you and I know. And when I had sought his advice, he said, "John, you need to look beyond, well, what do you mean by that?" And he goes, "Well, you have to look beyond Calgary. You have to go to the East Coast. You have to go to the West Coast. You have to go south of the border. You have to go where the capital is." And so at around that time, it was perhaps easy to say you should travel. But if you recall, there was such thing as called a pandemic, even though it's fading into our memory. So we did a lot of Zoom calls and spoke with a lot of early venture capital firms. And something resonated, I think, with VC, what we call MedTech, or medical devices typically conveyed as MedTech, a MedTech VC. based in Florida. They invested in us as we were closing around. Another very, very well-respected fund from Palo Alto and Silicon Valley contacted us, which was unusual. We didn't contact them. They contacted us. And I thought that was...
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. I guess they had seen our deck somewhere. But anyways, we got to discussing things. And so we then raised $4.7 million at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that gave us, again, sufficient capital to continue to build the team. I think at some point we're up to, probably less than 10 people. And then, that there's a term that you're very familiar with, the valley of death. I guess it
Yes.
seems like every fundraising cycle has a valley of death. But
we should tell our listeners, just in case they don't know, what is the valley of death?
Well, it's basically it's many things, but one of the aspects is that to get to your next inflection point, you need resources. Part of those resources is capital, and so you'll need to have your companies in a position to attract that capital to get to that next step in your evolution as a firm. And if you don't, then you're likely going to disappear.
Yeah.
Much like dinosaurs, I guess. Much like dinosaurs. Yeah, they faded away. Yeah, the valley of death was in the horizon there, but it just meant that we needed to work even harder at it. And that fast forward from 2021 to 2024, very proud to say that we then were able to physically meet with investors and potential partners. And then we raised a total of $27 million USD that we closed in 2024. Our lead investors were Amplitude Venture Capital, this very great firm as well, great partners, as well as an undisclosed major strategic, one of the largest medical device companies in the world have put a bet on us. So we're really proud of that. And of course, all the other investors, whether national, international, and even local.
Yeah. Okay. So what I love to do on this podcast is force founders to take a breath and a moment to reflect on, like, how did that feel to finally get that Series A done and know, like, we did this? Because I know the journey was hard. How did that feel for you?
Oh, incredible. It's almost unbelievable for us. Alim and I were super happy because then we were at least guaranteed the resources, again, to take the company to the next stage.
Right.
That we could map things out and do all the other good things that we were planning to do. So we were super happy about that. And I think a couple of bottles of champagne.
I'm sure, at least, I would hope. The Founder Mindset is brought to you by ATB Financial. In the fast-paced world of tech, your banking needs evolve as quickly as your industry. Whether you're just starting out or aiming to reach new heights, ATB Financial is dedicated to supporting tech companies every step of the way. Partner with ATB Financial for a banking solution that grows with your business. As we know on this journey, there's always like one moment when you're like, oh, this may not work. This could be the do or die moment. And maybe it was the valley of death for you, but I mean, or at least seeing it on the horizon. But is there a moment that you can reflect on when you were like, okay, this is the do or die moment right now?
Yeah, I would say that it wasn't necessarily discrete. I mean, it always seems with a startup, there's many challenges that you need to navigate. And this was one of them. It's probably one of the most formidable. But Alim and I, because we're physicians and surgeons and treat patients and also can view the other technologies that are out there for patients, we knew that we had in our lab was something extremely special that has a place somewhere in the armamentarium for physicians around the world to treat their patients as well.
Yeah.
So we had that North Star
right.
where we want to head towards. So in terms of a specific do or die, I would say that, again, in this fundraising journey, when I was sort of surveying the landscape of other companies that were having challenges, one of the things I recognized, and this is also based on conversations with other entrepreneurs, which is, again, this other network outside of medicine that is super valuable. I have friends and colleagues that exist outside of the hospital who run companies. And one of the pieces of advice I remembered very specifically was that you need to take your product to the next level, which is for us, not necessarily testing it out in the laboratory in a research lab, but taking it what we call to the clinic, to patients.
Right.
And so we were able to, again, very efficiently, and this is based on the hard work of our team, our employees, in 2022, launch a human trial. So a small study where we were able to demonstrate in human patients, this is an international study, where we were able to demonstrate that our product worked and was able to cure aneurysms in people. And I think this really validated our technology, gave credibility to our company, ourselves as management and founders, that then helped us get into the Series A and do that successfully. So that, I think that was definitely a critical milestone that we needed to achieve to get to our Series A.
Right.
Yeah.
But what was it like to get there? I mean, that seems like kind of a big leap to go from the lab all of a sudden to, humans walking around with your stent.
Yeah. It is. It's a huge leap. And I think many companies don't make that leap. And when you don't, and we have to remember that the final product here, after you commercialize, is to use it in patients. So it's a necessary leap and very, very critical. And that's what we knew in our minds that we need to get towards to achieve that, to demonstrate, again, the real value of our product, besides scientific papers.
Besides the scientific. Yeah. I mean, even as a storyteller, I can see, like, once you have humans walking around, like, even if you can't even understand the science, that makes sense. That's easy to get your head around. And I could see how that would resonate with investors too, right? They're just like, oh, yeah, okay, so humans have this. All right, that sounds good.
Yes, absolutely.
But I also do want to take a moment, like, you have human beings now walking around with the stent that the two of you created. What's that like?
Incredibly humbling. Incredibly humbling. I mean, when you look back on it and think where we started as an idea, and then the laboratory and that vision that we were able to make into a reality, it's incredibly humbling. And we're very, very grateful to the people in our community that supported us, incredibly grateful to the patients who participated in this study. Yeah, it almost seems surreal at times.
I bet. It's incredible. It's incredible. Okay, so we have to talk a little bit now about what life is like as an entrepreneur for you. But I think for you, quite obviously, you're not just an entrepreneur, you're also a neurosurgeon. So just tell me, like, what your life looks like when you have these two massive jobs happening at the same time.
Yeah. We talked about challenges already, didn't we? I still haven't figured it out completely, but along the way, we thought that we would be successful in this project, in this venture, because we are doctors, not despite we're doctors. Because I think a lot of potential people looking at our company might say, well, how can you balance both?
Right.
How can you do both? They're both full-time jobs.
Yeah.
I don't dispute that.
Right.
But it's because we are physicians, neurosurgeons who look after patients. Again, we can see the impact that we can have with our product.
Right.
We can see the deficiencies of the tools we use as surgeons now that we want to fill the gap in with our product overall. And Alim and I don't think we slack off too much.
I don't think so.
But we are able to balance things. And because Alim is also practicing medicine, of course.
Right.
He's a neurosurgeon. He's my surgical partner at the university. And again, anyone who knows Alim knows how dedicated he is to patient care and his craft and his lab and the company. And we're able to then balance things. So if there's a clinical need, an imperative that we need to address at the hospital, of course, we definitely look after that. We have a great team at our hospital. We've built a practice that many people are envious of across the country because of the people around us. So we can lean on them, but The other thing is that we then, of course, lean on one another. So if I have to go to a meeting, Alan will be in the hospital, sometimes operating, vice versa. And it's very synergistic. Remember, we started off as neurosurgeons. We're also academic professors at our university. So we have the research background and the clinical trial exposure experience as well to run human studies. It's very synergistic. The research laboratory is right next to the hospital. So we can balance that. And the company, which had its beginnings actually physically at the university at the Life Sciences Innovation Hub, which was an incredible resource for young companies. So again, I smile because I think about our team now, and there's like 3 or 4 people sitting in cubicles next to one another. But that was our start at the Life Sciences Innovation Hub, which is a stone's throw away from more than stone's throw, but a short 2-minute drive away from the hospital that was on university grounds. So again, grateful for all the synergistic coincidences that have happened or we've helped create that really helped make our company viable and successful.
Right. So you can do all of the things at the same time.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we would never reduce our commitment to patient care, but at the same time, we also are very respectful of the people who supported us along the way, including the investors. And the investors are looking for a return very clearly. They also are indirectly helping patients who want to see a return on their investment.
Right.
Al and I recognize that. Yeah. And that's why we work so hard to take the company and take it to the next level so that we can then eventually be successful and return their capital at multiples. So that's our goal too.
Of course it is. But I still want to know, what do you do for fun? Is that even an option? Like,
I don't know.
He's still laughing, just for those listening.
Fun is a neat concept, I guess.
A foreign concept?
I do like to slow down and reflect a little bit, at times, and that could be a few minutes. It could be maybe a couple hours, but I will say, and I don't really have hobbies. I have a golf membership that I've had for the last 20 years. I think I've golfed maybe 4 times in my life. So it's a worthwhile goal to get onto the golf course. But what I do, maybe on the weekends, you'll see me in my front lawn weeding the grass and in my little garden out front. So that's what I do at the same time, it gives me some downtime to
for sure
think about the upcoming week and all the things that I need to do.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Okay, so we've talked about the challenges, but I would like to take a moment to reflect on the high parts too, right? Like, what do you really love about being an entrepreneur to your already busy life? Like, what do you love about it?
I think, again, it comes down to the people. The people. Like anything worthwhile takes effort, takes time, and you can't do this solo. Very few things are done by yourself in isolation. What I'm most proud of is right now the company has found solid footing with its fundraising. We've been able to attract people from across the country to join Fluid. We have a very robust internship program that we're able to pay it forward and bring on young engineers and scientists into the fold so they can learn for a year or longer in our place. We just recently moved into a new headquarters that looks phenomenal. And in Calgary, it's, it looks like the prototypical, very clean, modern space. We have a nice private cafeteria as well. That's one of the things I'm proud of, to see the evolution of the company come to this point.
Yeah.
But also this realization that we need to continue to evolve, not just as a company, but as founders, as management. We need to grow because we left one valley death behind us, but there will be another.
Right.
There will be another. And whether that's some other challenge that we didn't see around the corner, my job as CEO is to sort of look around that corner and predict. But we need to sort of continue to make advances so that we can get to the next stage
Yeah.
for the company.
It's funny. You just mentioned, you as CEO, and it does occur to me, how did you and Alim decide that you were going to be the CEO?
Yeah.
I'm curious about that thought process.
Yeah, Alim. So just we had to look at our individual skill sets, I think, overall. I from a physician background, we're equally, I think, talented in what we do. We both specialize in aneurysms and stroke. We have a joint practice there. Alim has the additional benefit of being of having the biomedical engineering background.
Right.
So, of course, and it's his lab that he was supervising with all of his students. So clearly he would take the technical lead, the scientific lead there. I also maybe had a little bit of a different pathway. I was chief of neurosurgery for my time here in Calgary. And so came to understand how to deal with people and teams and management. So I think I had that kind of background. Well, along the way, I don't think I mentioned this, but around in 2018, we're talking about challenges. I felt at that point the company was just coming out of stealth in a way, and that we were seeing the product generating really great data in the laboratory. But I felt I really want to expand my horizons, and it wasn't necessarily even for Fluid at that point. It was for myself. And so I decided to do an MBA.
Yeah, just add that to the list. just gonna go get an MBA here.
You should have seen Alan's reaction when I told him that. But so, and I had done courses here at the university here in Calgary, phenomenal business school and professors and such, and I'd taken some courses there. The difficulty, though, as a neurosurgeon in practice is that, I don't know if for some of our younger listeners out there, they may not have ever seen a pager.
Right.
But in the hospital, we still are tethered to this device, the size of a pack of playing cards that you wear at your belt. And basically people can reach you 24/7 through radio waves. So there's no cell loss. You can't say that, your cell phone didn't receive it. So I remember going to these courses locally here. And I was just paged incessantly. And so you couldn't really focus. You couldn't really pay attention. I just not felt bad for myself, but also for the professors who have also devoted all their time to these classes. So I decided I really want to take things to the next level. So I wanted to do an MBA. And I just made the conscious decision it needed to be out of town, out of pager range.
Right.
So I then looked at the schools out there, and what really resonated with me was the Wharton School of Business at UPenn. They have a satellite campus not only in Philadelphia, but also in San Francisco. So it was doable. So I did an executive MBA there where every 2 weeks I was flying down to San Francisco or Philadelphia. Typically on a Friday is when they'd have classes, and you do about 8 to 10 hours of class a day. And then Saturday night, I would jump back on a plane and then get back to Calgary. And then on the flight, you try to get your homework done, and then you do your small group sessions. But, it was a phenomenal experience from my standpoint, not only in terms of the content and learning the basics of business and finance, working with Excel spreadsheets, which were foreign to me at that point, but also learning about myself.
What did you learn?
Many, many things, I think. Many things. How I communicate, how I should listen, how I'm perceived, how I wish to be perceived. I would say like 30 to 40% of the MBA for me was in the soft skills. And a diverse, very talented group of classmates that I had there and that I still keep in touch with. It's been 5 years now. So I graduated from there with an MBA. During that time, Alim held down the fort every 2 weeks. But we were able to make that happen. So then it naturally then became, after that, I would become the CEO. The CEO.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So we decided to sort of split the roles that way.
That's incredible. I just can't believe you just threw an MBA in there. That's just outrageous to me. Amazing.
But I will say although I am CEO in title, Alim and I make decisions jointly.
Right.
He's president and CTO.
Yeah.
He leads the engineering team, but all major decisions we make jointly, and we've never had a crossword or disagreed about anything. It's been phenomenal.
That's incredible. Yeah. You talk about that synergy. It sounds like it's essential. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You briefly touched on this, but I would like to dig into this a little bit more. This notion of creating meaningful human impact. As you know, that's important to us at Thin Air Labs. But first of all, even as a physician, that must be very important to you. But I would love to explore what that means to you in terms of the company as well. What does it mean for you to create this impact in the world?
Well, it's probably the end goal of Fluid Biomed. Our goal is to provide physicians around the world, not just John and Alan, but physicians around the world with a technology that can really make meaningful impact on their patients, not just here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, but around the world, around the globe. And to do that, there's many steps along the way, the scientific research, the testing, the initial human clinical trials, the larger clinical trials that are forthcoming as well, the regulatory aspect, all the things as a company, the manufacturing, the quality, all of these are domains that we need to succeed. Recognizing all that work, and if we can get to that North Star, I think for me, that's that eventual pride that I will have, that Alim and I will have at the end of that journey, if we get to it, where we can say, hey, we did something. We created something from nothing. And that something is extremely powerful. It will change lives. It will prevent stroke. It might rescue someone from a terrible fate. We see a lot of sad things in neurosurgery. We see a lot of, despite all the advances, that we do see people who are stricken with, we use a euphemism, neurological deficits, but it means, essentially paralysis or the inability to speak, or people who are vibrant and now dependent on others for their care. We want to alter that course, change that trajectory for people around the world.
Wow. It's incredible. It's incredible. As we wrap up these conversations, I always ask the same two questions. You are the co-founder of Fluid Biomed. You're writing the story for your company. How do you hope that story goes?
It depends on the perspective. You're one of my major investors. You want me to make a great return. And just on an official note, we will make a great return for you.
Just for the record, yes, noted.
But if you also, don't get me wrong, they're not just capitalists, but they are it's funny. Investors can invest in anything they want.
Sure.
Anything, of course, right?
Of course.
Fungible. It's there are no borders for capital relatively. And so they could have taken their funds and invested in any other country, in any other company, in any other domain. So it didn't have to be medicine. You and I know they could have put their funds anywhere, like Thin Air Labs, right?
Yeah.
And so the fact that they were able to entrust those monies with us, again, is humbling. And so we want to respect that overall. And they, in their way, they're not necessarily physicians. A few venture capitalists are physicians, but the ones that aren't, I think this in a way is their indirect method of making that impact through us. We're the vehicle to make that happen. So that's one perspective. The other perspective is that we also have supporters who are doctors who also believe in that mission. And then you have the other team members in our company. So where we end up at, again, if we're successful, is to change lives around the world. And whether they're a student, a co-op student with us, whether they're a scientist with us right now, helping develop the experiments and the scientific papers to help push that forward, whether they're the technicians right now developing our stent and all the packaging, or the engineers, this is their way of contributing to that impact. Super grateful to them. We can't do it without them.
Yeah. I love that. And then finally, you are the co-founder of this company. How do you hope your own personal story goes?
It's a story. The story is a book. There are chapters in that book. I think I would not have predicted where I'm sitting now with you as a CEO maybe 10 years ago. And who knows what the story will lead to 10 years from now. This is a very important chapter in the book. We want to see it to its conclusion. But I think, for all of us, it's a matter of evolution. As personally, professionally, with myself, it seems like everything's mixed in together, tied in together, whether it's an entrepreneur or a physician, husband, father, son, all those things. It's part of the evolution of John Wong, but I do hope the book comes to a happy ending.
I think we all do.
Yes. Thank you.
John, thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you, Leah.
If you're building a tech company in Canada, you've probably heard of Artemis. They're the recruiters founders trust to find the leaders and key teammates who'll shape the future of their business. I know them personally. They're thoughtful, genuinely caring, and deeply connected in tech. The Artemis Canada team treats every search like the future depends on it, because it does. Hey innovators, Calgary is buzzing with groundbreaking ideas and talent. The Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund is fueling our future by investing in innovation to build a diverse and resilient economy. Dive into the details at opportunitycalgary.com. API is helping innovators accelerate from idea to impact. Whether it's pharmaceuticals, medical devices and diagnostics, health technologies, or natural health products, API supports the full journey, from early research to clinical and commercial manufacturing. API bridges the gap between academia and industry right here in Canada.